The Rio Grande, a natural border separating Mexico and the United States, carries secrets of dark money flowing north. The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration estimates Mexican drug cartels make billions annually, with some of this wealth seeping into the U.S. to buy influence. Imagine a system where those sworn to uphold the law are compromised by the very criminals they are tasked with fighting. Corruption, like a disease, can eat away at the foundations of society, breeding distrust and eroding public faith in democracy. Cartels thrive on violence and intimidation, representing a profound threat to the integrity of our institutions and the safety of our communities. This essay delves into the murky world of cartel influence, examining historical context, documented cases, and devastating consequences. To understand the grip of cartels on U.S. politics, we must journey south to Mexico, where organized crime rose during the Mexican Revolution. The 1980s saw a seismic shift with the rise of cocaine, and Mexican traffickers seized the opportunity, leading to the Guadalajara cartel's prominence. Their story is one of violence, greed, and alleged collusion with powerful forces outside of Mexico, shaping the destiny of both nations. The 1980s, marked by Cold War tensions, saw the U.S. entangled in controversial alliances, including alleged collaboration between the CIA and Mexican drug trade. The Iran-Contra scandal exposed this murky period, with profits from cocaine trafficking potentially funding covert wars. This era highlights a dangerous precedent. When powerful entities prioritize geopolitical goals over ethics, corruption can fester at the highest levels. The 1980s saw the rise of the cocaine cowboys, flamboyant traffickers who flaunted their wealth amidst the Reagan administration's war on drugs. The focus on law enforcement failed to address root causes like poverty and demand, allowing cartels to become more sophisticated and ruthless. The murder of DEA agent Kiki Camarena in 1985 exposed the brutality and deep-rooted corruption protecting the cartels. The wealth accumulated by cartels in the 1980s and 1990s sought new avenues for influence, including infiltrating the U.S. political system. Campaign finance laws, riddled with loopholes, make it difficult to track the true source of political donations, allowing dirty money to seep into campaigns. This insidious form of corruption strikes at the heart of democracy, eroding public trust and undermining the rule of law. The sun-drenched streets of Miami hide a dark secret: the drug trade's deep reach into political and financial institutions. Fabio Ochoa, a member of the Medellin cartel, sought legitimacy through investments and political connections in Florida. His downfall came through a money laundering scheme, exposing the deep-rooted corruption that allowed him to operate with impunity. The halls of Congress, meant to be a bastion of integrity, can be compromised by ties to organized crime. The Teflon congressman, despite persistent rumors of corruption and alleged ties to Colombian cartels, evaded scandal. Though never proven, the case raises concerns about the vulnerability of the political system to infiltration by organized crime. The glittering casinos of Las Vegas, magnets for those seeking to clean dirty money, are vulnerable to exploitation by criminal organizations. A case involving a prominent casino and a Mexican cartel revealed intricate methods to disguise illicit funds. The investigation highlighted the challenges law enforcement faces in combating sophisticated money laundering techniques. Cartel influence is often felt most acutely at the local level, where small towns and border communities become easy targets. A case in a small border town illustrates the devastating consequences of cartel control over local governance. The town, once vibrant, descended into fear and despair, becoming a stark example of the corrosive impact of cartel influence. The potential for cartel influence in U.S. politics strikes at the very heart of democracy, eroding the trust that binds citizens to their elected officials and institutions. When even the faintest shadow of suspicion falls upon those entrusted with power, it chips away at the foundation of a just and equitable society. This erosion of trust manifests in myriad ways, from declining voter turnout to a pervasive sense of cynicism and disillusionment. The idea that campaign contributions, often shrouded in secrecy, could sway policy decisions in favor of criminal organizations fuels a deep sense of betrayal among the electorate. It reinforces the perception that the system is rigged in favor of the wealthy and powerful, leaving ordinary citizens feeling powerless and unheard. This disillusionment can lead to apathy, with people disengaging from the political process altogether, believing their voices no longer matter. Furthermore, cartel influence can poison the well of public discourse, fostering an environment of fear and suspicion. When individuals fear reprisals for speaking out against corruption or challenging those in power, the free exchange of ideas, essential for a healthy democracy, is stifled. This can create a climate of self-censorship, where citizens are reluctant to hold their leaders accountable, fearing the potential consequences. The erosion of trust, once it takes root, can be incredibly difficult to reverse. It requires a concerted effort from both citizens and those in positions of power to rebuild faith in the system, to demonstrate that transparency, accountability, and the rule of law are more than just empty slogans, but guiding principles that underpin a just and equitable society. While the potential for cartel influence in U.S. politics poses a grave threat to democracy itself, it's crucial to remember that this issue extends far beyond the corridors of power. The drug trade, which fuels the cartel's wealth and influence, leaves a trail of devastation, shattering lives and communities. The human cost is immeasurable, marked by addiction, violence, and loss. The opioid epidemic ravages communities, a stark reminder of the drug trade's impact. Cartels flood the country with deadly substances, leaving broken families. The crisis is measured in overdoses, healthcare strain, and immeasurable grief. Violence spills over, claiming innocent lives and fueling fear. Border communities bear the brunt, facing cartel crime and militarization. Behind political discussions lie real human lives, forever altered by the drug trade. Addressing this crisis requires tackling corruption, providing treatment, and creating opportunities. Combating the insidious influence of cartels in U.S. politics requires a multifaceted approach, one that addresses both the symptoms and the root causes of this complex issue. It demands a commitment to transparency, accountability, and the rule of law, not just from elected officials, but from every citizen who values the integrity of democratic institutions. This fight is not for the faint of heart. It requires vigilance, courage, and an unwavering belief in the power of truth and justice. Strengthening campaign finance laws is paramount. Closing loopholes that allow dark money to flow into elections, increasing transparency in political donations, and empowering independent oversight bodies are crucial steps in reducing the influence of illicit funds in politics. This requires political will and a commitment from lawmakers to prioritize the health of democracy over partisan interests. Furthermore, bolstering law enforcement agencies tasked with combating organized crime, providing them with the resources and independence they need to investigate and prosecute corruption at all levels, is essential. This includes strengthening international cooperation, as the fight against transnational criminal organizations requires coordinated efforts across borders. However, true and lasting change cannot come solely from top-down approaches. Empowering citizens, fostering a culture of civic engagement, and protecting whistleblowers who expose wrongdoing are vital components of a holistic strategy. When citizens are informed, engaged, and willing to hold their leaders accountable, it creates a powerful deterrent against corruption and strengthens the very fabric of democracy. The fight against cartel influence is not a sprint, but a marathon, requiring sustained effort and unwavering commitment. It demands a recognition that the health of a nation's democracy is inextricably linked to the integrity of its institutions and the vigilance of its citizens. The potential for cartel influence in U.S. politics represents a clear and present danger to American democracy. The erosion of trust and the normalization of corruption are tangible threats to society. Imagine a future where officials are beholden to shadowy figures, not the people. Policies crafted to serve criminals, not the common good. The essence of democracy lies in trust between the governed and those who govern. When trust is shattered, it breeds cynicism and erodes democratic norms. The fight against cartel influence is about safeguarding the soul of a nation. The insidious reach of cartel influence extends far beyond the borders of the United States, weaving a tangled web that ensnares governments and institutions across the globe. From Latin America to Africa to Europe and beyond, the corrosive power of corruption, fueled by the immense wealth of drug trafficking, poses a grave threat to stability, security, and the rule of law. This is not just an American problem. It is a global crisis that demands a coordinated international response. The interconnected nature of the globalized economy, while offering unprecedented opportunities for trade and development, has also created vulnerabilities that transnational criminal organizations are quick to exploit. Money laundering schemes, often involving shell corporations and offshore accounts, obscure the origins of illicit funds, allowing cartels to invest their profits in legitimate businesses and real estate, further entrenching their influence. Furthermore, weak governance, political instability, and rampant corruption in many parts of the world create fertile ground for cartels to operate with impunity. They bribe officials, intimidate law enforcement, and exploit impoverished communities, often with the tacit complicity of those in power. This toxic mix fuels violence, undermines the rule of law, and perpetuates a cycle of poverty and despair. Combating this global scourge requires a concerted effort from the international community, one that goes beyond traditional law enforcement approaches. It demands a commitment to strengthening institutions, promoting good governance, and addressing the root causes of poverty and inequality that make countries vulnerable to cartel influence. In the fight against the often hidden hand of cartel influence, knowledge is a powerful weapon, shining a light on the shadowy networks, exposing the intricate financial transactions, and raising public awareness about the tactics employed by these criminal organizations are crucial steps in dismantling their power. When citizens are informed and engaged, they become a powerful force for accountability, demanding transparency and integrity from their leaders. Investigative journalism plays a critical role in this endeavor. By meticulously following the money trail, uncovering hidden connections, and exposing wrongdoing, journalists can pierce the veil of secrecy that often protects these illicit networks. Their work, often carried out at great personal risk, is essential in holding the powerful accountable and informing the public about the threats facing their communities. Furthermore, education and public awareness campaigns are vital in equipping citizens with the tools they need to recognize and resist cartel influence. This includes understanding the subtle ways in which corruption can manifest, from seemingly innocuous favors and campaign contributions to outright bribery and intimidation. Empowered with this knowledge, citizens can become more discerning voters, demanding transparency and accountability from those seeking public office. The internet and social media, while often used to spread disinformation, can also be powerful tools for amplifying the voices of those fighting against cartel influence. Sharing information, connecting with like-minded individuals, and organizing online campaigns can help raise awareness, put pressure on authorities, and create a global movement for change. The potential for cartel influence in U.S. politics is a sobering reminder of the fragility of freedom and the constant vigilance required to safeguard democratic institutions. This battle requires the active participation of every citizen who values justice, transparency, and the rule of law. Refuse to accept corruption as inevitable. Believe in the power of your voice, your vote, and your ability to make a difference. Demand transparency from your elected officials and hold those in power accountable. Support organizations and journalists working to expose corruption. Educate yourself and others about cartel tactics and their consequences. Share information, start conversations, and encourage critical thinking. By standing together, we can build a brighter future where the rule of law prevails.